Hi everyone, welcome to Tune In Tuesday. I am having to do a voiceover today. My audio was not working well today. I'm not sure what the difference from today from yesterday was, but today it's very choppy and I sound like a chipmunk. As you can see here, I'm cleaning the paint off from yesterday from Mix It Up Monday. I do keep these towels to keep the color so it won't be wasted, but I'm preparing my canvas for today's video where I start the first piece of my 17 piece series. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment area, and thank you for tuning in and following me on this journey. Alright, here I'm just letting you know, welcome back to Tune In Tuesday. I have my pigments out that I mixed up on Monday. I'm holding the burgundy there. And I believe the cherry is also on the table. I was just reviewing some of the things that I mentioned in Mix It Up Monday, what the burgundy can represent and what cherry can represent. If you would like, I'll link that video down below in the description area so that way you can just go back to the video and look over some of the color principles that I went over in that video. I'm also explaining here that is my piece of canvas, and that for this series I work in reverse, where what I put first will be the visual that the viewer will have once I'm finished, whereas my other canvases I normally work on wood circles that I get made for my work, and usually the last layer is the first thing that the viewer sees. Here I'm showing you a jar of water. It snowed here this past week in my area, and I like to collect the snow or rainwater and paint with that water. I'll often find water bottles as well, where somebody didn't drink all of the water, and use that and recycle the bottle. I also was explaining that sometimes I find grass or dirt inside of my jar after the snow has melted, and usually I'm okay with that. I like the minerals that go into the water. I'm also just explaining the different tools. That's why I grabbed a jar of water right there in my hand. I have a tuning fork, and I use tuning forks. With this series, I found that it was a really neat experience where if I face the fork one way, the water pushes away, and if I use the base of the tuning fork, it'll pull the water towards the base of it, and it makes some small details, but ones that are really neat to me. Here I start painting. I grab the burgundy. I wanted to use burgundy as the first layer. I really liked the color, and I also thought it was pretty unique for me to be drawn to this color to use first, as it is the color that is inspired to awaken your passions. Again, I went over color principles and Mix It Up Monday video and left some details on burgundy, and today it was the color that I was drawn to use first. If you do know me as an artist, or if you're just new to me, I love circles. I like circles, or some people call them dots. I call them energy. It's just these little balls of light that I see in my day-to-day life, and I like incorporating them into my pieces of artwork. Sometimes I go linear, on a rare occasion, and I still manage to incorporate these circles that just make me feel really great when I'm painting. Here I'm grabbing the snow water, and just kind of splitting it down. I don't like using it all right off the bat. I'll most likely use the rest of that jar. Yes, I was smelling it because I think that it has a really great nature mineral smell, and that is part of the reason why I love using fresh water from outside, is because while I'm inside on cool days, I'm still getting to connect to nature, and it just makes me feel really good. I'm also sharing here, since I did smell that jar, I'm working on expressing or sharing my internal expressions while I'm painting. This piece right here, when I knew that my first piece was going to be the color red, it immediately took me to this place of visualizing myself grounding, as if my feet were birthed for the first time, but in my adulthood now, and I can finally feel the warmth of what being grounded in my being feels like. And yeah, I'm just trying to really express some internal thoughts that I have. I have a lot of visuals and a lot of thoughts while I'm painting. It's not just that one specifically, but I do know that when I was going to use this first, that was the one that stuck out to me visually, and as I'm painting and smelling that water, it triggered that visual that I had. Here, those lines that I created reminded me of vibration lines, wavelength. So I decided to grab my C sharp tuning fork, which is connected to the root, which is what the color red represents in the chakras. And I apply the top of the fork to the water, and you can see there it pushes it away. I really like, though this is a small space, so it's creating a small detail, it's still very satisfying to see the vibration work with the color. Here I decided to grab out my phone so that way I could attempt to get a closer view for you. I shared it on my Instagram story. If you're interested in checking that out, my Instagram handle is at ArtistASHLi, and it will be in my story. Here I get really excited. Right as I'm creating this, you can see that the water from this other area just pushes its way through that line that I created. And to me, that's one of the highlights in creating free flow, is allowing my colors and water to work together, and for me to accept how it's turning out, and to allow the patience of the water and the color to flow together. Right here, I just wanted a line. The line eventually turned into an entire section, so I ended up blocking off the bottom half. Later in the video, you see that I'll move the canvas up so that way you can see what I fully did. Again, there's no real reason why other than the fact that sometimes I just get these visuals. So here I know that there was standing on or in mud, I suppose on, but the ground is definitely textured. And here the instinct was to just draw this line. Now, is it the ground that I'm standing on? In a way, yes. Eventually, it reminds me of water and kind of looking out into a sunset as well. So it represents the ground, but it also to me represents the infinite possibilities that water can create for us. Or when you're staring off into, if you've been to the beach before and you're staring out into the ocean at the sun, and though you know on the other side there's a landmass, for that moment it seems like it's a never ending landscape. And I feel like that is a piece of what doing that bottom portion represented for me. So here's where I decide that I should just move it up. I think I'm leaning towards this kind of bottom portion right now, and I wanted the camera to pick that up, which I stopped and paused and stare. I also explained in there, in that fast forward portion, of how I'll go over certain areas because I know I'm using watercolors. Sometimes the way that my flow is moving, I'm not necessarily giving them the time that they need to dry. So I'll go over certain areas a few times. I also know that the way that I'm working on this canvas is in reverse. So a few more layers on there, and from the front view, everything will fill in. So from this view, first off, I'm just kind of blocking it in, going with the initial flow. But as I build and as I build more with primary red, all of these areas will be filled in. And that's one thing that I do keep in mind while working on this type of canvas, because it's my first time incorporating this concept while I'm working. think somewhere right in here is when I realized that my audio isn't actually working how it needs to be working, and that I decide to end my video, which is just the beginning of the piece. I'll be posting more to my Instagram story as these next 2 weeks go, and then on the fourth Friday, I'll have Finish It Friday for this first piece in my series. If you enjoy watching me painting, give this video a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos in the future, hit the subscribe button, as well as the bell button so that way you can be notified. Thank you for joining me for Tune In Tuesday. See you next time.